So we have been the last two sessions, and we'll wrap it up today, talking about craving and a desire. So I want to do one final look at that, not forever, but for this series. It's too important to not ever talk about it again. But so I'm talking this morning about the subtle experience of craving. And craving, tanha in Pali, is, as you know, one of the core teachings of Buddhism. It's the second of the Four Noble Truths. And as the Buddha described it, it is the root cause of suffering. It says that in the search for satisfaction, all craving seeks its own destruction. And what I mean by that is that the satisfaction of our craving seeks to eliminate the craving. In other words, if we, the belief is that if we satisfy it, it goes away. But that doesn't happen because craving never creates lasting satisfaction. It is always fleeting. It is always temporary. And this insight really sums up the Buddha's wisdom on this topic. You know, his words invite us to explore the nature of craving, to look at it subtly, to look at the nuances of it, its limitations and its path, and then the antidote, which is the path to reduce suffering resulting from accepting our unfulfilled cravings. Craving at its core is typically yearning for something outside of ourselves. Sensory pleasure, permanent existence, permanence in other things, non-existence, all the things that pop up. And it arises from a fundamental dissatisfaction with the present moment. Something's going on in the moment that I'm dissatisfied about, and that generates a craving or a desire. And usually drives us to seek fulfillment in external objects or experiences, to look outside. I can tell you, I spent much of my life before finding the Dharma. I still spend too much of it, but not as much as I used to, with no conscious awareness of how powerful a force this was in my own life. I spent so much of my life craving excitement, novelty, fun, new possessions, sensual experiences, on and on and on. But as the teaching tells us, I was never satisfied. When one thing failed to satisfy my craving, I was immediately on to the next thing. Or at least I was fantasizing about the next thing, or searching or imagining the next thing. And this went way beyond my needs for nourishment, shelter, and safety. I'm not talking here about the kinds of craving that sustains us or assures our survival. That's a given, you know, that's not the problem. My life was without meaningful connection during this period because my cravings left time for nor space for real relationships. I was too busy running around trying to feed these cravings. And as the text reminds us, satisfying craving is inherently flawed because when we satisfy one desire, another one pops right up. And this leaves us caught in this perpetual cycle of longing and dissatisfaction. And this is because the energy of craving itself lacks wisdom, it lacks insight. It's just kind of autopilot. We are usually unaware of it when we're operating on autopilot. And as a result, we can't see the truth of the futility or the impermanence of all phenomena. And as the Buddha so brilliantly taught, the fleeting nature of satisfaction is rooted in impermanence, and it's rooted in the conditioned nature of reality. Everything, and I mean everything we crave, whether it's material possessions, relationships, even spiritual attainment, is subject to change and decay. So clinging to these transient objects, these transient pursuits, only leads to more suffering. It's a vicious cycle. That's why the Buddha taught us that the path to genuine happiness or contentment is not craving. Rather, it is the source of a chronic discontent. So think about that for a moment. Our craving does not provide us with the ability to know that the cause of suffering is craving itself. We often don't see it. We're just caught in the cycle. We don't see that the cause of our suffering is the craving itself. We think the cause of our suffering is not having the craving met. And this points to the self-perpetuating nature of craving and the ignorance that we have about our craving. Craving represents a fundamental misunderstanding of reality, not seeing things as they truly are. And ignorance in general of what the Buddha taught are the three marks of existence: impermanence, suffering, and not-self, is where a lot of this shows up. It's in our delusional thinking, what he called our ignorance, that we believe that by fulfilling our desires, we can attain lasting happiness. And boy, does the culture reinforce that. Pick up a newspaper, listen to an ad, look at a billboard, it's right in our face. But if that were true in my early life, when I was constantly pursuing stuff, I would have been the happiest person alive. I mean, because it was just nonstop craving, pursuing pleasure and toys and all kinds of other things. But the very act of grasping and craving creates attachment. And what do we know about attachment? It reinforces the cycle of suffering. You know, as we talk about here all the time, the teachings of the Four Noble Truths offer us profound insights. Suffering has a cause, and that cause is craving or clinging. And by identifying and recognizing and making conscious that it's the root of our dissatisfaction, we are empowered to take steps toward greater freedom. But however, and this is a very important critical point, overcoming craving is not a matter of suppressing our desires or living a life of asceticism, of denial. Instead, it requires and asks us to cultivate the wisdom to see craving for what it truly is, which is a conditioned response driven by our ignorance, not seeing reality, and attachment. So with that said, it's a powerful reminder that only with our mindfulness and our awareness can we cultivate the clarity and the insight into the truths that lead to some freedom from craving. And this highlights the transformative power of mindful awareness, which is the cornerstone of our Buddhist practice. Through mindfulness, we develop the ability to observe craving as it arises. We notice it. Here it is again. Oh, I'm craving chocolate. Oh, I'm craving excitement. Oh, I'm craving entertainment. Oh, I'm craving some other sensual pleasure, without being swept away by it, without being just prisoner of it. We practice our noticing so we can pause and examine our craving and then respond more skillfully. So, for example, it is skillful when we know that we need to eat when our blood sugar drops. I'm starting to feel grumpy. Or unskillful, like thinking a shiny new toy is going to bring me happiness. If I go on Amazon and surf around and order something, that's going to bring me any kind of lasting happiness. Because by bringing awareness to the present moment, we begin to see the transient and unsatisfactory nature of our desires. We see this treadmill that we're on. And so we begin to break the cycle of habitual reactivity, where so much craving originates. When I reach for that chocolate in my pantry, it is a form of habitual reactivity. It is a mindless, autopilot-driven craving for the brief pleasure of that chocolate on my tongue, but it will not last. And if I look at it with mindful awareness, I still may choose to eat the chocolate. It's not about denial, but I will do so with the knowledge that it is nothing more than a fleeting pleasure. It's not going to last. It's not, because this practice is not about asceticism, as I said. It's not about denying ourselves pleasure. Life would be pretty dull if that were the case. There is nothing wrong with our cravings. In fact, we need some of them, as I said, for our survival, as long as we manage them skillfully. So we pause with mindful awareness, we investigate the underlying causes of our craving, and we cultivate the wisdom to manage them skillfully. As we deepen our practice, we begin to see that peace and contentment that we seek are not found in external objects, but within ourselves. By letting go of unskillful craving, by managing it skillfully, we open the door to freedom, and we experience greater serenity and spaciousness with the non-attachment that comes with that, the non-clinging. So what I'm calling the subtle experience of craving reminds us of the central role craving plays in perpetuating the suffering and the importance of mindful awareness in overcoming it. Craving by its very nature seeks satisfaction, but is incapable of delivering it. It is a trap. It is by its nature seeking satisfaction, but it can never deliver on the promise. Only through the clarity and insight cultivated by our practice, our mindfulness, can we free ourselves from this delusion of craving and discover true freedom. And this is the way the Buddha's teachings offer a path to freedom, guiding us to transcend the cycle of longing, desire, and dissatisfaction, and awaken to the promise that he gave of the boundless freedom of the present moment. So that is some final thoughts on this series on craving and desire.